Hello, everybody. This is Maxine Taylor, and I have the United States forecast for August 2023. There is so much going on in our world, um, and I'm going to keep it really, really simple because otherwise it can get convoluted and confusing, and the simpler, the better. Truth is simple. Okay, so I'm going to start, first of all, as I always do, with the position of the sun in the United States chart, that where it is now. And I'm going to go through and explain each of the houses that are tenanted by a planet. Many of you are astrology students. Many of you are practicing astrologers. You already know the difference between a mundane chart and the chart of a person. However, a country is a living, breathing entity. And so while the interpretation of the houses are different, they are nevertheless alive and kicking, so to speak. So I'm going to read over the, excuse me, I'm doing 100 things at once. I'm going to read over the definition of a house in a mundane chart as I get to each one. So to kind of jog your memory, if this is not your, if astrology is not your native language, okay? All righty. Excuse me. Okay, we got to start with the sun, the giver of life. And wherever the sun is in a country's chart, that is the area that lights up, that comes alive. And so here is the sun. It's been in our third house. It will stay in our third house until the 7th, which is just a few days from today, when it moves into our fourth house. Now, I've gone over this before and I'll keep going over it because I don't expect those of you who are not astrologers to have it memorized, okay? And in fact, there are many astrologers who like a refresher. So this third house is the house of communication. It deals with the press. It deals with news reports and news reporters, public opinion, and you can see it's all lit up. And so there's lots of opinions going around. People are talking, and the sun is the giver of life. And this communication is very healthy, very helpful. Let me keep on going with that third house. It deals with traffic and travel. We don't, well, I'm not going to go over and talk about the train wrecks or the accidents in the sky. We've all heard about it. I mean, this is what is going on. And because the sun is sitting there, anything that appears to be negative about an event is going to turn out to be a positive because it's bringing it to the attention of the world. Okay. The third house also rules our neighborhoods, schools. I mean, how need I talk about all the tragedies that have gone on in schools. I don't even want to go there. It's just horrible. Let's see, teachers, and public transportation. So we're talking about subways, we're talking about, in Atlanta, we're talking about MARTA, all types of communication, correspondence, and transportation. Now, that is lit up beautifully until the 7th, when the sun enters the fourth house of the United States. And this is very interesting because it's really important. The fourth house deals with real estate. And the real estate in our country is underwater. A lot of it, not the whole thing. But we know that the fourth house rules weather, and the weather has just been horrific. Not just the global warming, but the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the floods, the bridges that have been torn up. The fourth house also deals with the party out of power. Okay. And we're talking about the president, that position more than anything else. So the fourth house in this case would deal with the Republicans. It deals with domestic affairs. I mentioned weather, land, builders and buildings, farmers and crops, mines, and seniors. There are more of us nowadays. And so this whole area lights up. There can be benefits for seniors, which would be marvelous because we reach a point where perhaps we can't work, or the money that we get is insufficient. And so there can be changes made that will help in all of those areas, including, as I said, the weather, including the party out of power, including the land. So this is a very positive thing. Now, we have 2 full moons and 1 new moon. And I'm going to, instead of drawing lines, I'm just going to talk about the house that these lunations are in, and talk about them, giving you an interpretation without writing it down up here. Otherwise, it gets really confusing to a lot of people. And I want to keep this as simple as I possibly can. First of all, we had a full moon just the other day on August 1st. This full moon fell, for those of you who study astrology, in 9 Aquarius. It fell in our 9th house. Now, the 9th house in a mundane chart deals with higher education. It deals with long distance travel. It deals with the upper courts, such as the Supreme Court, foreign travel, our foreign neighbors, higher education, advertising, science, let's see here, insurance. I talked about the Supreme Court, world travel, and universities. Just keeping it simple. This full moon triggers issues with those of our foreign neighbors with whom we do not necessarily get along. And of course, this naturally, well, I shouldn't say naturally, to my mind, brings in the United Nations, which is a wonderful organization. This particular full moon emphasizes the midheaven, which indicates the party in power, which would be the Democratic Party. And a beautiful grand trine is formed between the midheaven, the ascendant, which is the public and the attitude of the public, and Saturn in our 5th house. I wanted to give you all this information, and now I've got charts all over the place. Saturn in the 5th house. First of all, the fifth house deals with children, and when I think of children, I'm thinking of schools. I'm thinking of people entering schools with guns. I'm also thinking of abortions. And The grand trine is a beautiful aspect that brings luck and blessings. That fifth house deals with sports, gambling, theaters, congressional meetings, public hearings, and teachers of all types. And so there can be a beautiful grand trine that brings the party in power, the tone of the public, of the people, and everything I mentioned about the fifth house into beautiful alignment. That's the first full moon. Now, we have a new moon 2 weeks later, okay? The new moon occurs after the dark of the moon. And as after the full moon, the energy starts waning and dissipating until on 2 days before the actual new moon, we have no moon. We're in what's called the dark of the moon, no energy, but on the actual new moon, things start moving forward. And so the new moon is going to be August 16th in 23 degrees of Leo. It is in our fourth house. Now, the fourth house, as I mentioned earlier, deals with land, it deals with real estate, it deals with the party out of power, weather, all domestic affairs, land, farmers, builders, crops, and seniors. This can be a beautiful new moon that gets things going in the right direction. And it can be triggered by the party out of power. Very interesting. 2 weeks later, we have another full moon, and it is on the 31st of August in 7 degrees of Pisces. The full moon in the 10th house. The 10th house indicates the party in power. It rules the president, the current president. It rules, let me make sure I'm not leaving anything out, the reputation of our country, public image, and all of the leaders in this country. I'm hoping that this brings leaders together. And I'm thinking once again of the United Nations. Beautiful organization. Okay, now let's move forward. Venus, beauty, love, money. It is retrograde right now. And when Venus goes retrograde, it acts just like a Mercury retrograde. Everything is confused. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I talked about the third house, but Venus is love. Venus represents blessings. Wherever Venus is, things go well. All right, again, communication, news and reporters, public opinion, traffic, books that may have been banned, newspapers, neighborhoods, schools, and public transportation. Venus is retrograde. It starts in the 4th house and works its way back to the 3rd on the 23rd of the month. And there can be a great deal of forward movement when Venus goes direct next month. Now, I'm thinking also of the writers and communicators, the writers' strike. And my understanding is that on today's news, they said that the writers and actors are willing to get together and talk about creating agreement so that they're no longer on strike. That would be wonderful. So Venus starts in the fourth house, home, crops, everything I just said, and winds up in the third house. It will go direct in that third house and then go back into the fourth house in September. So stay tuned, all right? I'll keep you up to date. Now, here we go. Mercury. Most of us know what happens when Mercury goes retrograde. Everything is confused. Same thing with Venus. When they both are retrograde at the same time, which they are these next few, several weeks, it's a tag team and it's a double whammy. So here's Mercury starting off in the fourth house. A lot of thinking, a lot of talking about that fourth house. That's the party out of power and lots of talking going on. This is not an action planet. This is a communication planet. Mercury moves into the fifth house of fun and children and sports, and goes retrograde on the 23rd. It sits on Neptune from the 19th to the 27th. I want to talk about Neptune in that fifth house. Neptune is either total escapism, make-believe, and it's in the fifth house of the theater. And so this can be a step forward for the writers and actors. And I don't know if guild is the right word, but the ones who are on strike, and this can be very helpful, but it's Mercury's retrograde, so it's going to be a hurry up and wait time. Neptune can be make-believe, obfuscation, or the dream come true. And with Mercury sitting on Neptune, we're talking about hopes and wishes. We're talking about communication that can be very idealistic, but Neptune deals with spirituality, and Neptune is in the fifth house of children. And there are so many issues that fall in this fifth house besides sports. And I'm hoping that there will be a change made in every area related to this fifth house, and that people can come together and create a solution. Otherwise, it's all lying and obfuscation, which just drives me crazy. Okay. My suggestion, though, is that everybody find a way to solve the problem instead of being more of a problem. That's just my opinion. Now, let's look at the final chart. Jupiter, the greater benefic. I've mentioned this before. Jupiter has been and will stay in that 12th house. The 12th house deals with hidden things. It deals with behind the scenes communications. Now, it deals with bribery, spies, hidden enemies, prisons, jails. That means they can expand. Jupiter is expansion. So there can be more behind the scenes activities going on. We may or may not know about them, but Jupiter is a blessing. It's God's law. You get my drift. This is really cool. Okay. More on the 12th house. Hospitals, criminals, charitable organizations and institutions, secret societies, and welfare. And this, whenever I see Jupiter in the 12th house, I know that behind the scenes activities are going on but they will bear fruit. Jupiter is going to go retrograde, however, in the next few months. And so it's once again, hurry up and wait. Now, the final planet that I want to talk about is Mars, the warrior, the fighter, what you fight with and fight for. And it's sitting on Neptune, the dreamer, the idealist. It's there on the 15th and 16th. Mars can start fights. Mars rules guns, artillery, ammunition. And there can be covering up because Neptune is make-believe. And there's a lot of behind-the-scenes activities which are necessary right now because of our international allies. Okay. So Mars can really kick butt and create the dream when it comes to fifth house matters. And again, I'm going to read to you. Children, and Mars guns. I would love to see that situation handled. I'm sure the parents, all over the world, of course, who have lost children because of mankind's inhumanity to man, they've suffered enough. Sports, gambling, the theaters, movies, congressmen and women, public hearings, stadiums, and teachers. Teachers are not paid enough money. We know that. Civil servants are not paid enough money. It's just that simple. But Mars can push forward the dream or the obfuscation. I say go for the dream. And in the fifth house, I think it can be done. And the movies and entertainment of all types, very important right now for the morale of our country. So that's what I've got to share. You know, when you're dealing with millions and millions of people, it's hard to predict exactly how these aspects are going to manifest. But from what I've seen, the way I've described them fits with what's going on now. So in any event, I hope you'll join me next month and the month after that, etc., because things are moving forward. There have been indictments, and progress is absolutely being made. And that is giving lots of people hope. I know it's given me hope. And I sincerely wish that on every level, what I just had to say brings you hope, because we have to be positive. For so long, we've been bombarded by negativity, by lying, by cheating, death. I don't have to explain it. We've all lived through it. And so now I am hopeful, even though everything's retrograde and we'll have to wait till it goes direct. I'm hopeful that this is a start in the right direction. So join me next month when, once again, I look at the United States chart. Until then, may the stars shine brightly on you and yours. Bye for now, my dear friends.